If you're watching this segment, you've probably just been served with a foreclosure complaint. And I know how it is, and it's scary. The process server or the sheriff comes to your door and hands you this thing. You're like, oh my gosh, what are the neighbors going to think? And what do I do? Do I have to move out of the house? How long do I have? Do I have 20 days to move out? Slow down, okay? It's okay. I call the complaint the invitation to the dance. It doesn't mean that everything's over. It's just the start of the process. It actually gives you some power for a change instead of wondering when it's coming. So the very first thing is just slow down and take a breath, okay? It's okay. Now, we have a lot of time, and I'm going to show you all kind of things throughout this to slow this down, to buy time in your house. So you got a long time to stay in there, all right? So don't worry about it. One of the good things about Florida is we have what's called a judicial state process, which means that it has to go through the court system. There are other states like Georgia where it goes pretty quick. So you're in a good state for this right now, so it's okay. Now, you're probably saying, okay, well, Charlie, how long do I have? All right, well, let me tell you. Generally, the Florida Rules of Civil Procedure provide that you have to respond to the complaint within 20 days after you're served. All right, so if you just got served, you got 20 days. It's 20 straight calendar days. All right, so if there's holidays that come in, doesn't matter. It's 20 straight days. If it falls on a Saturday or a Sunday, the 20th day, it's actually due the Monday following. So that's how we calculate the 20 days. Now, sometimes if you look on the summons, and that's the document that came with it, says, hey, you got to do this, it says 30 days on it. And you're like, well, was it 20 or is it 30? Well, some law firms, some mortgage companies will allow you 30 days to respond instead of the 20. So it actually is the 30, even though the rules of civil procedure generally say 20. So if it says 30 on your summons, and we're going to look at that, we're going to go through this in great detail, you have 30 days to answer instead of the 20. The same rules apply. It's calendar days, and then if it falls on a Saturday or Sunday, it's due the following Monday. Okay? Now, what happens after that? Well, let's say you do nothing. Let's say you do absolutely nothing other than respond to the complaint. The next thing that the bank is going to do, and the bank's attorneys, is they're going to file what's called a motion for summary judgment. We're going to talk about that and what that is and how the process works. But that's the very next pleading in the case. A pleading is something that's served and says, hey, here's what's going on. So that's the very next thing that serves, is a motion for summary judgment. That usually happens, very often in the early part of the case. So once you get served, the motion for summary judgment typically is coming a month or so after you get served or very shortly after you respond. The next thing that happens is the bank is going to set it for a hearing, that motion for summary judgment. And what does the motion for summary judgment say? Well, it just says you don't have any real defenses, and as a matter of law, they're entitled to get that house back from you. Most foreclosure cases are resolved on summary judgment, which means that there's no trial. It's just boom. I've been in court many times where there's a stack this high on the judge's desk of files and just stamp one after the other. Judgment, 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 judgment. Those are people that all lose in their houses because of that. And I'm going to try and help you to prevent that. But that normally comes, the hearing, couple, 3 months within the foreclosure process once you get served. In general then, 30 days after that is when this foreclosure sale occurs. Under Florida law, the bank has to publish the fact that there's a foreclosure sale 2 consecutive times, 2 consecutive weeks. So that's why they need 30 days. So very often it's 30 days. So if you do nothing, even if you just answer the complaint, in general, the process runs about 4 months. Now, is it always like that? Nope. Very often it's longer. Depends on the law firm. If it's a big mill firm, usually they're a little slower. So it really just depends. But in general, if everything's running the way it's supposed to run, you've got about 4 months from when the complaint is served to when you hit that foreclosure sale. Now, we're going to keep you in there a lot longer than that, because we're going to show you the ways to slow this thing down, maybe even stop it, and maybe fix it. And that's the whole point of this system. But in general, that's the timeline. So if you do absolutely nothing, you got at least 4 months to stay in there. Now, very often people say, well, what happens when the sale occurs? Am I have to be out that day? No. There's a process that you have a right to object to the sale within 10 days of the sale itself. So they will hold off on what's called the certificate of title for 10 days after the sale to allow an objections, which typically you don't have objections to it, but that's how it works. And then within 24 hours of that, you get an eviction notice posted on your door, which is a 24-hour eviction notice, which means you have to be out of the house by then. And if you don't get out of the house by then, the sheriffs are going to come with a group of people and throw all your stuff out on the street. So you may be driving around the neighborhood sometimes and you see all their stuff out on the street. That's probably what happened. They got the eviction notice, they didn't move, and they got everything thrown out. I don't want that to happen for you. And so let's try and avoid that. But again, for now, get the complaint, relax. And now what we're going to do is I want you to look at that complaint. And we're going to talk about that in the next segment. I want to sit down with you and I'm going to show you every piece of that complaint and what we're looking for.